While a lot of my countrymen are still coping about Paris and Twickenham, still thinking the All Blacks will win the World Cup, France will have gained far more out of the Italy game than we ever did. Although today's margin isn't as significant of a win, this result was excellent preparation for France as they look ahead to South Africa. Kia ora guys and welcome back to this channel. My name's Max, I'm the host over here at the Black Jersey, and I'll give a massive thank you to my patrons before we discuss France's 60-7 win over the Italians. The French were very clinical, really denying a lot of chances that could have gone to Italy, because ultimately, despite the high scoring game, this was a match won on defense. Anyway, before we discuss the game, I just want to send you guys over to Rumble, over at Odyssey, so you can check out a few videos of mine that had a few copyright issues in week 1 and 2 of the Rugby World Cup. A few other creators have had copyright strike issues as well. But anyway, how did France take this win by 60-7? Well guys, for today's analysis video, we're going to discuss why, so let's get into this. We'll immediately examine the opening try to show that France pretty much know how to take out the Italian defence straight away. As we can see, 12 players on the French team are now on their feet, with 12 Italians also on their feet, thanks to bodies piling in around this breakdown. There's a reason, however, that the pitch is so condensed, with all of the space outside the player appearing to be Rutzer, being absolutely void of players. So said reason, it's the fact that Italy defended with a rush defence. The system Italy used, though copyright stops me showing it in motion, is remarkably similar to the defence we can see from England in 2019. To allow their defence line to sprint forward at every phase, the 2019 England team playing in the semi-final has one wave resting, while wave 2 sprints up at the All Blacks to allow for a high intensity interval approach to defence. South Africa, however, pictures doing the same to the All Blacks at Twickenham, were able to tire this rush defence in the World Cup final by repeatedly targeting the fringes of the ruck, as we see on screen. Now that we cut back to Italy, it's for the same reason that there aren't any French players on the right of the posts. Italy therefore have 3 players too far across to defend this area on the blind side. We'll skip forward to another freeze frame to see that because Thomas Ramos catches the ball with 2 players on his outside, the repeated targeting of the Italian fringes is tactical. While all of these blokes in the red circle have been battering away, Penaud has been able to loop around with a lazy line to the left wing from the right following this animation. The next freeze frame now demonstrates a 3-on-1 with Allen forced to choose between tackling 3 Frenchmen. The loop line we animated before allows Penaud to cross over for a pretty simple touchdown. Taking the approach of preparing for South Africa, it also allowed France to get a lot of the jitters out of their system after they had a bye the week before. The animation of a pod passing out the back to a distributor that I've shown you guys across several videos is France's plan for their second try. While All Black fans have the impression this is a revolutionary Jalibert thing without any structure, it's a cleverly crafted tactic in several teams' arsenal. Because of the South African press defence, a tactic I've also discussed many a time, being the successor of a rush defence, looking to use this alternate version of the animation that we now see so that a distributor can kick after getting the pass out the back will work well against the Springboks. As we cut back to the test match, it's all obviously there. Flamand is coming forward as a single man pod, while a pod of Bai and Woki are on his outside. The 2-3-1-2-1 pod formation with Antonio and also a different 2-man pod all out of frame is then followed by Jalibert and Dante out the back. Dante is here so that he can clean a ruck if Italy read the attack. Woki's pass, however, isn't very good. Anyone with eyes will notice that on 12:25, Jalibert's attempts to catch looks like ballet. On the wide shot from 12:26 though, we see Dante and Antonio's decoy lines have by coincidence stopped Italy from taking Jalibert down as he looks to regather the ball. I doubt this is intentional, but it's a great showing of France's ability to play off the back foot under South African pressure. After Jalibert regathers the ball, Penaud is here, Bielle-Biarrey is here, and anyone with an IQ higher than the scoreline can probably tell a try gets scored after this gaping hole we highlight gets left open. With Thomas Ramos's try being a little bit of a fluke, I don't think there's too much analysis to gain out of that, but quite simply, we can certainly gain a lot of analysis from Damian Penaud's second try. The Italian defence formation, as I've implied, is a pretty nice trial run before France play South Africa. Maxime Lucu visibly detaches from the maul right now, and in response to a very very odd inverted hands down the line shape, Italy have chosen to leave a bit of space out on the wing, as we can see. Italy are choosing to leave this space open so that Allen can lead Garbisi and Brex into the space here to follow the animation and tackle the inside runners. If Italy don't move across the hinge of the maul, the door isn't shut on Ficou, sending either Jalibert or Bielle-Biarrey through the gap between Allen and the hinge, because if Italy needing to cover two possible blind spots as Luku detaches, this is why they've got heaps of open space in Parney's channel on the wing when Jalibert catches Ficou's pass out the back. Dante's decoy line isn't very good, but should Bielle-Biarrey follow the animation to create a 3-on-2, Italy will still need to remain in place. Jalibert, however, withstands massive pressure from Brex to bomb the ball up in the air, giving Penaud all the time in the world to run onto the ball and score the double. And as we can see as we cut to the halftime stats with the ad break all done, 31-0 is the halftime score for the French, who have got both 58% for the possession and of the territory. It's not going to tell you the whole story though, because when we cut over and see the attacking stats, it's rather interesting. They've run 229 meters compared to the Italian 186, and so the gap of meters run is about 46 or so if my calculations off the top of my head are correct. As we can see though, France are absolutely smashing it for defenders Bishan and clean breaks, which is really showing us that they have far more structure to their attack compared to Italy, who are just flinging the ball around and trying to do their best impression of the Wallabies. France are offloading a lot more and they've won 4 turnovers compared to 3, which is definitely helping them to retain all the possession and keep the ball alive. Because of this, doing all of this stuff and not really allowing Italy to have breakdowns to reset this rush defense, Italy are quite simply just getting a bit too tired, sprinting at every phase, unable to organize properly, and such factors can be seen by the fact that France have a tackle percentage that is 10% higher than the Italians. France are also doing really well at the breakdown, only losing one of their own rucks due to a penalty. The line-outs, not too good for Italy either, though France did lose one of their own scrums. Italy, however, the key here, they're conceding more penalties. Both of the 2 penalties that they conceded inside their own half as well, Ramos did attempt to shoot the goal for those, though he did miss the one at the half-time whistle there rather. So yes, France are a lot of points ahead of Italy, but the stats that we initially see don't always tell the full story, and the running meters are absolutely typifying that factor. Italy just simply did not have enough experience to bring the same structure as the French, because the French have learned that it's all well and good to play expansive rugby, but you have to plot your expansive rugby, and that is why they were ahead at halftime. Now guys, let's look at the second half. France continue their dominance well into the second half with a very, very well structured approach in the 47th minute, with Woki able to wrap in between Olivon and Ramos, and Jalibert and Bielle-Biarrey able to slot in between Gelange and Ficou. Les Bleus have options galore right now, with a very obvious gap between Allen, who was marking Ramos, and Ioane, who was marking Ficou. We're about to see a very nicely manufactured try. Only we're not, because Italy's defense was not very good over here, guys. Tommaso Allen, despite moving to 15 after Capuozzo came off failing his HIA, is defending in the 13 channel. This means that Brex, who is normally a 13, not a 12, rushes out of line at Jalibert when he gets the pass to take a look at the Italian mistakes. If Allen was out here marking Penaud, he'd allow for Brex to hold the line on the red cross and way up between the 2 white arrows facing Jalibert and Bielle-Biarrey. Ioane would then of course be able to have a lot more confidence zoning in on Ficou, since a more patient defender from 13 would give him the chance to turn around. Allen's mistake of slotting in to defend from 13 now exposes the Italian inability to cover because of their rush defense. With Rutzer and Fusco both side on, this massive gap is now wide open for Jalibert, one of the quicker 10s in the game. Fusco now makes an absolutely dreadful tackle attempt that allows Jalibert to get in for the score. Malvaka then does this thing, adds insult to injury and extends the lead by going over the driving maul. The scoreline goes ahead instead to 45-0 for the French. Yoram Moefana will probably be glad to have the easiest tuple of his career too. As we can see, Penaud finally plays some minutes in his preferred 13 position, while Moefana getting a go on the wing was probably a good idea, as he will likely be on the bench again for the semi-finals if the French qualify, because Penaud is so dangerous. He holds the attention of Pani, which allows for Jalibert to follow this animation and come on to Kuyu's pass at pace before allowing Moefana to do this here and finish the try off in the corner. A lot of you guys who have watched my videos for a long time, you'll know that Hakatime Rugby Zach, awesome dude, he introduced me kind of to the YouTube world. He was the dude who really gave me that final push, I guess, to start this channel. But one thing I think Zach will probably be admitting right now is that he got the issue with French defensive cohesion wrong. He pointed out a potential issue with the French defensive cohesion after they played against Australia, pointing out worries that South Africa could really target that. But with the French defensive cohesion, I think that was just a particular example of Australia actually doing some decent things on attack for once, rather than internal issues with the French. What we're about to see shows that though that was an issue before the World Cup, it's been fixed. It's not a hard issue to fix, and after we've looked at defensive stats, we'll do some more again in the full-time stats. They're really definitely improving that issue, and it'll definitely be gone for next week if my hypothesis is correct. We can all see the blue axis of a hands down the line formation from Italy, while Ellen is hiding behind the first two players, Zani and Riccione. While Lorenzo Cannone is left unmarked on the outside with Luca Marisi out of frame, we can now see Reda Wadi and Taufefanua's defensive shift as they've rotated their chests towards the touchline. Their ability to shift to fix that defensive cohesion now allows for Penaud to weigh up the three options, because you can see that Ioane and Cannone are marked, but that the front row aren't quick enough to tackle them. He comes in to make the tackle on Ioane, as we see on 69-57. By making this tackle, we can now see that Penaud can get in front of Cannone 1 second later. As Marisi is now isolated on his own out wide, Jaminet is able to bring him down and prevent the try. After Zuliani finally beats three defenders to get Italy's only try, Moefana responds with the final try for Les Bleus. While most people will be taking notice of Kuyu becoming best friends with the referee, I'm taking notice of how Awadi filling in at 9. With Walkie and Cross wanting to join Aldrit to form a pod, Italy will be figuring out that's pretty obvious that Aldrit will take the ball into contact. We suddenly see though at the next freeze frame with Dante rushing forward that Kuyu has taken a pass from Aldrit himself so that he can have more space to weigh up the killer blow of the match. The final second of the close-up shot now gives us a look at Jalibert before we get into the wide shot to see exactly what he's up to. He's wrapped around with Bielle-Biarrey again, with Bielle-Biarrey functioning as an inside option to target gaps, as Jalibert also however has come forward between Bielle-Biarrey and Moefana. He's got an outside, inside and a long pass for the options, while Jaminet can also collect one off Moefana to slot in this gap over here himself. It of course goes without saying that Jaminet can give the ball to Penaud to make it a hat-trick. With 5 possible passing options for France, Italy can only sit back and concede one last try. After Jaminet kicks the final penalty of the match, the scoreline, as we said at the start of the video, it ends in a 60-7 win for Les Bleus. They do have a slight decrease of the possession rate, as we can see, but the territory stays the same. Good to see they kept a few things consistent throughout the match. And the meters run though, it remains very, very close for France and Italy, which is really interesting. But the structure is really given away by France absolutely dominating the stats for clean breaks, defenders beaten and offloads. Well, they did of course win more turnovers than the Italians. Perhaps they didn't quite dominate Italy enough for turnovers won as they would have liked to ahead of South Africa, but with Jalonch getting some much needed minutes over at open side flanker with Cross on the bench, I think it's going to be okay. They'll put Cross back in there for South Africa, and knowing South Africa, they're probably going to put Makalu in off the bench just to cover the outside backs and the extra forwards so they can counter South Africa's inevitable 7-1 split. The tackle success rate though, as we can see, it kind of dropped off a little bit, but it remained very, very good. 93% after attempting 132 tackles, missing just 9 of them. That is not too bad at all, and France's defence has become a well-oiled beast. You see all the times they were binding to each other throughout the match, just shutting out the Italians from close range over and over and over. Italy were putting together phases for at least 10 in a row, and they walked away multiple times out of the French half having no points on the board because France were just absolute workhorses for Shaun Edwards. While France do play a lot of expansive rugby, people tend to forget that when they do attempt them all, it's very good. They forget that they have the best tight head prop in the world, Weenie Antonio. They forget they have so many liner options. They of course forget that Shaun Edwards is the defence coach. France aren't a one-dimensional team like the All Blacks and the Wallabies playing Super Rugby. They're a multifaceted, all-round team with so many things they can add onto the pitch. Speaking of the breakdown, very good work there with 97% for the ruck success. They also won at the line-out and at the scrum, and most importantly, they were really taking advantage of the penalties given away by Italy. Italy conceded 16 penalties throughout the match, and France, for as many times as they wanted to do, they would go for the line-out all the time, and they were really using that line-out, that set piece, as a platform to launch the quick tries. France are becoming a very, very scary team, and Springbok fans, don't get too cocky, because I don't want you guys to be in the same position that us All Blacks fans felt in 2007 when we lost to these French guys. France are an absolutely amazing team. I wish them well for the quarterfinals. I wish South Africa well. I wish the All Blacks well. I wish Wales well. And sadly, I can't wish the Wallabies well because they're out, but it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. And Italy, probably a bit of a young team to get to the quarterfinals, but from what I've seen, I do still believe Italy have a good future ahead of them. They're just not ready to fulfill that promise just yet. Thank you very much for watching today's video, guys. Just want to remind you as well to like this video and subscribe to me if you enjoyed it. I'm also over on Instagram, over on Rumble, over on Threads, everything like that. Please check them out if you want to support me elsewhere. And one more thank you to my patrons. I will see you in the next video, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the final round of the pool stage at the Rugby World Cup. Cheers from Max.